When you think of Germany, what comes to mind? You probably think of pristine engineering, right? We're talking flawless autobahns, high-speed rail, precision manufacturing. Basically, a country with an undisputed reputation for ultimate efficiency. But what happens when you look beneath the pavement? Because in the summer of 2026, a very different, highly chaotic reality bubbled right up to the surface. Literally. Today in this explainer, we're looking at a nationwide crisis where the very foundation of daily life is quite abruptly bursting at the seams. It's a fascinating, if somewhat alarming, question. How does a modern nation, one literally famous for its infrastructure, suddenly find itself flooding its own streets, paralyzing major traffic, and cutting off the water supply for hundreds of thousands of people? Well, as Europe sweltered under record-breaking heat waves, Germany's aging water grid just started to crack. We are going to dig into the anatomy of a massive infrastructure collapse.
All right, let's map out exactly what we're covering today. First, the summer of bursting pipes. Second, the century-old infrastructure problem. Third, the human and economic toll. Fourth, the climate change connection. And finally, fifth, rebuilding for the future. Okay, let's dive right into part one. The summer of bursting pipes, when the autobahn cracks.
Just look at how incredibly fast things went sideways over a single 72-hour window. On August 3rd, a massive pipe burst in Essen completely washed away the soil right out from under the B224 highway, leaving huge underground cavities. That shut down a crucial commuter artery for 3 full weeks. It totally upended the lives of 45,000 drivers every single day. The very next day, August 4th, a pipe burst on the A52 motorway near Düsseldorf. The damage there was so severe that it actually caused nearby trees to collapse onto the highway, and one of them literally crushed a passing truck. And then, the very next night, August 5th, multiple districts in Erftstadt lost their water supply entirely.
And here's the crazy part. That was just August. Back in July, a single major supply line burst in the port city of Rostock. That one incident directly affected 60,000 people across 25,000 households. The utility company suspects material fatigue caused the pipe to unleash 1,800 cubic meters of water into the ground. I mean, imagine waking up, turning on the tap, and getting 0 water pressure. Or, arguably worse, just this dark brown, sediment-filled water pouring out. So why is this happening now? That brings us to part two, the century-old infrastructure problem, Kaiser Wilhelm's pipes.
To understand why these rapid-fire failures are all happening at once, we have to look underground at a massive mismatch in engineering parameters. Across Germany, the average water pipe is about 40 years old. They were designed for a service life of maybe 80 years, but many are much, much older than that. You see, they were designed for the populations and milder climates of the 19th and 20th centuries. Today, they're being forced to handle the intense pressure demands and the extreme weather fluctuations of the 21st century. To give you a sense of just how staggering this age gap really is, consider Wiesbaden's Northern Cemetery. In 2026, a massive 1.5-meter steel main water line violently ruptured there. When investigators looked into it, they found out the pipes were originally inaugurated in 1877. That is the era of Kaiser Wilhelm I, nearly 150 years ago. A routine, modern pressure boost in the network bumped the system up from 1.8 bar, and the century-old steel simply couldn't take it. The past quite literally shattered under the pressure of the present. Let's look at part 3, the human and economic toll, floods and delays.
These aren't just isolated historical anomalies, The fallout touches every single part of society. Take Frankfurt Airport, one of the busiest transit hubs in the entire world. A pipe burst directly in the ceiling right above the regional train station, forcing track closures and massive train delays. Down in Stuttgart, a burst flooded the basement of the Mineralbad Bergbaths to a depth of over a meter across 900 square meters. It took the fire department, the disaster response unit, and a small army of pumps 12 solid hours just to clear the water out. And in the city of Hof, a single 40-centimeter main burst caused the entire city's water network pressure to just plummet to 0.5 bar.
And the cost of all this chaos? Well, brace yourself. 1.5 billion euros. That massive figure anchors the economic damage, representing the estimated annual cost of pipe burst in Germany. An average run-of-the-mill incident might cost around 8,500 euros to fix. But the severe cases, they run exponentially higher. When a major commuter road closes for 3 weeks, delivery routes are destroyed, businesses lose customers, and those hidden economic ripples stretch way, way beyond the initial repair bill. Which brings us to the macro level in part 4, the climate change connection, the true antagonist.
What's really interesting here is that these pipe bursts are absolutely not happening in a vacuum. The water levels of the Rhine River at Kaub tell the real story. The Rhine is the absolute lifeblood of German industry. In 2018, it hit a concerning low of 25 centimeters, but in August 2026, the river dropped to a record-shattering 19 centimeters. 19 centimeters! Cargo ships simply cannot operate at normal capacity in those conditions. It completely cripples industrial supply chains for coal, fuel, and chemicals across all of Central Europe. And that surface-level drought reflects a terrifying underlying reality. Germany has lost a staggering 60 billion cubic meters of water over the past 25 years due to climate change. 60 billion! The land itself is physically drying out at an unprecedented rate. And this loss of moisture isn't just an agricultural problem, folks. It is a full-blown structural engineering nightmare. And this brilliantly illustrates how it all connects into a hidden, devastating chain reaction. Step 1. Extreme heat and drought bake the region. Step 2. The soil around the infrastructure dries out and physically shrinks. Step 3. Because the soil shrinks, the ground shifts and settles. And finally, Step 4. That shifting earth acts like a giant vise, putting immense mechanical stress on those century-old, brittle iron and steel pipes we talked about earlier, basically snapping them. The changing climate is literally pulling the ground out from under Germany's infrastructure. Okay, finally, part 5. Rebuilding for the future. Can we adapt? Now, authorities aren't just sitting on their hands. They are deploying massive financial countermeasures. Just look at the state of Baden-Württemberg. In 2026 alone, they threw 87 million euros at water supply measures and another 107 million at wastewater. Meanwhile, the European Investment Bank has injected over 3.3 billion euros over the past decade into the broader German water sector. But here is the stark reality for taxpayers. Replacing thousands of kilometers of pipe under bustling modern urban centers is going to take decades and billions more euros in public funds to fully adapt. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. The summer of 2026 was a loud, chaotic warning siren. It proved, without a doubt, the 20th century foundations simply cannot survive a 21st century climate. So, what do you think? As the heat waves intensify and the droughts stretch on, can we adapt our infrastructure fast enough to keep the water flowing? Or are the cracks beneath the surface only going to grow deeper? It's a fascinating, highly urgent challenge, and for sure, one we need to keep a close eye on. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.